We're back again this week with Stephanie Dobson. Stephanie is a lawyer, mediator, and online educator with Hankin Divorce Law and Mediation offices in Lloydminster and in Edmonton. Stephanie, thanks for joining me once again.
Thanks, Stacy.
Well, last week we were talking about workbooks for people going through divorce and separation. This week we're going to get into actual books, so books
Yeah,
that people can read if they want to help them through the process. So I want to start out by talking about kids' books. So I know you have several, and obviously there's so much out there. So what are some of the books that you like for kids?
sure. So let's start going through them. So this first one is called Two Homes. So this book is really about explaining divorce to small children. So you can see here it's got some bigger writing and some big pictures there. The next book is called It's Not Your Fault, Cocoa Bear, and this is a little bit longer of a book, so you can see more of a storybook type of a book. And then the next one is called The Incredible Shrinking Girl. So this one is a really great story by a friend of mine named Julie Verner, and this is a really great story that she created. And then we've got a workbook type of a book here called When Mom and Dad Separate, and it's talking about children who are going through anxiety or grief. And so if you open up the book, you'll see it's actually a workbook style book, and so you can do this together with your children. And we've got here helping your kids cope with divorce the Sandcastles way. So this is actually a program out of the States through a social worker, and it's got some exercises, but it's quite a hefty encyclopedia of sorts. But that one's a really great one. And then I've got two more here. One's called Mom's House, Dad's House for Kids, and I've got the adult one here in just a moment that I'll feature. But it's a really great kind of novel type of book for teenagers. And then the last one is called Home Will Never Be the Same Again. And this is actually a guide for adult children going through their parents' divorce. It's also a great book for parents to read who have adult children.
Well, let's talk about the next subject, Stephanie, which is like parents. Obviously, it's a struggle for them too. So if they're learning to parent from two different homes, if there's kids involved or whatever the case is, what do you have the books that what books do you recommend for that scenario?
So there's so many of them out there, but there's two that I wanted to feature here. One is called Mom's House, Dad's House. So this is the adult version of the kids book the novel, and this is really an encyclopedia of sorts. And this is all about how do you create a mom's house and dad's house as opposed to home and dad's house or home and mom's house. And so really neutralizing that, and it really speaks in a child-centered way. And the second one is a book I love for parents who have trouble communicating. It's called Biff for Co-Parent Communication, and it's written by a gentleman named Bill Eddy, who's a lawyer and social worker out of California. And it's just some great ways to communicate if you're having trouble. So Biff stands for brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and it tells you how to communicate and how to respond to messages to de-escalate conflict.
Now, what about just some general books, Stephanie, for people who are trying to figure out how to go through the process of separation and divorce?
Yeah, the how-to is something that often people forget. They know that they want to hire a lawyer or a mediator. They think they need to go to court, but they're not really sure. So I had chosen three books here that really spoke to me. So one is called Children Come First: Mediation, Not Litigation When Marriage Ends. And so this is all about mediation as a process. Mediation is where there's one neutral mediator as opposed to each of you hiring your own lawyers to go through with your separation or divorce. The other one is called The Collaborative Way to Divorce. And this one is about where the collaborative process is where you each hire your own lawyer, but you agree still, the four of you, to work together cooperatively. So that's one mediation, one about collaborative divorce. And then the next one is a very impactful book called Tug of War. And this is actually written by a judge from the Ontario Superior Court of Justice who explains why parents should not want to ever go through the court system. So spoken from a true person with experience, a justice from Ontario.
And Stephanie, why did you choose this week to highlight all these books? Like I said, I know there's a lot of information out there, and it's nice that you've broken it down to some simple ones. But what was the reason for picking the topic this week?
There's so many fantastic books out there, and I find that it can be so overwhelming. Even my own library, I went through it last night and I tried to pick out some of the really good books that I could feature today. But, for families who are just starting their journey and going through separation or divorce, it's sometimes hard to figure out where to start, what resources to get. And sometimes you can happen upon some really kind of more difficult type of information and information that might not be correct, or even some information that tends to escalate conflict. And there's lots of that kind of stuff out there. So I thought if I could sort of hone in to pinpoint some resources that are positive and to help families thrive, I thought it might just make it a little bit easier for families.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us once again this week, and we'll be back to chat with you again next week.
Yeah, thanks, Stacy.